Hello, what is up everybody? I'm here for another Dungeons and Dragons live stream as I continue to build out the world that we'll be playing in later on. I am your host, excuse me, Dungeon Boy Burnham, and this is absolutely live. So if you have any questions or thoughts, go ahead and shoot them into the comments, the live chat, and that would be pretty rad. It is just me tonight. As I mentioned just a moment ago, but Draco, or whatever his silly pretend name is, and Morgo, or whatever his silly pretend name is, they couldn't be around the other night, and so just didn't have one, but didn't want to go a whole weekend without getting some work done in this world. So that's what I'm working on. I am looking at microphones and mixers to try to pick up something that'll make things sound a little bit better. I realize there is quite a bit of room noise from the cheap microphone that I'm currently recording on. Let's see here. I just want to go and make sure we do have a live feed going in right now. Let's see, settings. YouTube doesn't particularly make this the easiest when they're trying to get everybody to go to this new, or whatever you call it, this new dashboard for users. You sure you want to send your report to Google? Sure. Like, I don't know why I have to do that, but I just want to see the page that shows me everything about my stream. So let's see here. Like, particularly, am I live? That would be great to know. I assume I am. Live. Stream health. Okay, this is looking promising. Hello, please jump in the chat if you are on. Yes, 3 minutes of a live stream to get to that. Anyways, what I'm going to be working on today is, since it is just me, I'm going to be going through the different spells that are available in Dungeons and Dragons, particularly to determine which ones are good in this particular world. Should anything be limited? Should anything be changed? And in order to do that, I'm going to kind of take the whole, the boil the ocean approach, if you will. I'm going to go through every single one of these things, and find out. I'm going to read them all, I guess, is what what I'm saying. I'm not going to do that all on the live stream, but I am intending to do that. I'm going to basically, I've got a list of all of the pieces that are out so far. I don't think I have Ravinica. I don't know if there's any spells in there. I assume there are. But, so I'm going to go through there, kind of go through all of them, whether or not I actually know the spell or not, and determine, I guess get a baseline idea. I don't really intend to say, okay, this spell can't be there, because obviously, as we spoke about last week in our live stream, if you take out something, if you take out teleportation, that is a huge world-changing event that affects the entirety of the game. So it's not something that I'm going to jump into willy-nilly, but I am going to be going through some of these spells here tonight, and just kind of getting an overview of like what everything is in there. For the most part, I've read the stuff for the classes that I've played, and for the low levels of the classes that I haven't played that I've DM'd, which is for the most part just been up to level 4 or 5, so that's not a whole lot of actual spells that you get from there. So unless I've played the class, I don't know what the spells are, and what's available. And yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and get to it. And the first one here is Acid Splash. Oh, like I mentioned, I do realize that the audio is not the best, so I have got my eyes on a couple of different mixers, and I do have a decent, shotgun microphone that I can hook up. Although I need to get a mixer in order to do that. So if you have an idea of what a mixer is that is good and not ridiculously expensive, I've got like $100 in internet bucks. So like that's basically my budget, give or take $50 or something. But if I can take an XLR input and go to a USB into my computer, that would be fantastic. And that would improve things a lot. Although of course when I have the audio chat with the other two hosts of this, the guides to the world of dungeon mastering, that wouldn't necessarily it wouldn't solve all the problems if I had a decent setup, because obviously you're going to get noise and weirdness from additional setups. So we'll have to figure out how do we reduce noise and weirdness from the other weirdos, other than cutting out the weirdos. Ha. Okay. So it is kind of weird to just be in here talking to myself, but that's what I'm going to do because yay me. Alright, so we're going to start with cantrips, and I think, how many of these things do we have? Okay, so less than 43 because it's just the player's handbook. Count 27. Okay, I think I can commit to 27 for tonight. Probably have to stop after that and get a drink of water at least. I've only been going 8 minutes and I'm already parched. But it looks like I did a really good job spelling when I was typing. Hello, please jump in the chat if you are on. Anyway, here we go. So number 1 is Acid Splash. Casting time 1 action, range 60 feet, components VS, which of course is what, verbal semantic. Let's yeah, verbal and semantic, so gestures, that sort of thing. At least 1 free hand to perform those gestures. You hurl a bubble of acid. Choose 1 creature within range, or choose 2 creatures within range that are within 5 feet of each other. A target must succeed on a dex save or take 1d6 acid damage. I almost said acid damage. Okay, the spell increases in damage as you reach 5th, 11th, and 17th level, which seems fine. I don't know why that's a thing that I'm reading and questioning why I am undertaking this at all, but here I go. Okay, so yeah, wizards can do acid splash, warlocks cannot, sorcerers can, paladins no, rangers no, druids no, clerics no, and bards no. Okay, so just your wizard sorcerer folks can do that. Alright, I will highlight that green. That seems like a decent solution. Fill color, green. Okay, Blade Ward. So warlock has Blade Ward. Wizard can do it. Sorcerer can do it. Ranger cannot. Paladin cannot. Druid cannot. Cleric cannot. Bard can. Okay. So Blade Ward. For Blade Ward we have let's see, Bane, Beast Sense, Blade Barrier, Big Beast Hand, Bless, oh, Blade Ward. Abjuration cantrip, 1 action, range self, components VS, duration 1 round. You extend your hand and trace a sigil of warding in the air. Until the end of your next turn, you have resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage dealt by weapons. Hey, that seems kind of useful. Well, 1 round is not particularly too long, so I guess it would depend on who you're going after. If you're going after Strahd, I guess there's piercing. Oh, he seems to cast a lot of spells. Okay, then we've got Chill Touch, and I'm too far away from the list of classes and spells, so I will ignore that and go to Chill Touch. What I should do if I was really smart is I would be putting the numbers in the next column, the page numbers. Also, I would be learning my alphabet. That would be fantastic. Okay. Here we are. Charm Person, Chill Touch. Necromancy Cantrip. Okay, that is... I'll just punch in 221. Look at me. I'm getting smarter. Hooray. Okay. Chill Touch. 1 action, 120 feet, visual, somatic... Duration 1 round, you create a ghostly skeletal hand in the space of a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the creature to assail it with the Chill of the Grave. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 necrotic damage and can't regain hit points until the start of your next turn. Until then, the hand clings to the target. Now that seems useful. If you hit an undead target, it also has disadvantage on attack rolls against you until the end of your next turn. The spell's damage increases by 1d8 when you reach 5th level, 11th, and 17th level. So that is super cool. Who has Chill Touch? Because I gotta get me one of them. Okay. Okay, so bards don't have it, clerics don't have it, druids don't have it, paladins don't have it, rangers don't have it, sorcerers have it, warlocks have it, and wizards have it. And there you have it. That seems super cool, super useful. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a quick bookmark in the page that has the classes and spell lists. That way I can go back on here. Alright, if you're opinionated about any of these things, let me know. And I will take your opinion out into note. Okay. And then we've got, let's go to a little space, Dancing Lights. Dancing Lights is a fun little thing. Obviously wizards have it. Does anybody else get it? I assume sorcerers do. Yeah, sorcerers. Is that it? Oh, and bards get it. Okay. So Dancing Lights, this must be within a couple of pages. Demi-plane, Daylight, Dark Vision, Death Wars, Darkness, Dancing Lights. Okay. Dancing Lights, Evocation Cantrip, 1 action, 120 feet, a bit of phosphorus or witchwood or a glowworm. Concentration up to 1 minute. You create up to 4 torch-sized lights within range, making them appear as torches, lanterns, or glowing orbs that hover in the air for the duration. You can also combine the 4 lights into one glowing, vaguely humanoid form of medium size. Whichever form you choose, each light sheds dim light in a 10-foot radius. As a bonus action on your turn, you can move the lights up to 60 feet to a new spot within range. A light must be within 20 feet of another light created by this spell, and a light winks out if it exceeds the spell's distance. Alright, that is on page 230, and that is pretty rad. Druidcraft. I wonder who gets Druidcraft. Let's start by looking at druids. They don't get it. Druidcraft. Druids don't get it. Oh yeah, they do. I just am blind. Druids have it. And does anybody have have this spell? Perhaps the thing to do would be like go read the spell and then you take a guess who gets it. Druidcraft. Detect thoughts, dimension door, disintegrate, disguise self, dominate person, dream, druidcraft. Here we go. Okay, 1 action, 30-foot range, verbal, somatic. Duration is instantaneous. Whispering to the spirits of nature, you create one of the following effects within range. Okay, and there's a list of 4 effects here. You create a tiny, harmless sensory effect that predicts what the weather will be at your location for the next 24 hours. The effect might manifest as a golden orb for clear skies, or a cloud for rain, or falling snowflake for snow, and so on. The effect persists for 1 round. Okay? You instantly make a flower blossom, a seed pod open, or a leaf bud bloom. Okay? You create an instantaneous, harmless sensory effect, such as falling leaves, a puff of wind, the sound of a small animal, or the faint odor of a skunk. The effect must fit in a 5-foot cube. You instantly light or snuff out a candle, a torch, or a small campfire. Okay, so it seems like if you're going to be a druid, having those sorts of druid skills would be useful. Eldritch Blast, a beam of crackling energy streaks towards a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 1d10 force damage. The spell creates more than 1 beam when you reach higher levels. 2 beams at 5th, 3 beams at 11th, and 4 at 17th. You can direct the beams at the same or different targets. Oh, at the same target or different ones, because that's important. I make that correction. Make a separate attack roll for each beam. Good to know, good to know. Okay. Next is Firebolt. And I think that's the one that shoots ice cubes, right? Firebolt. Although I shouldn't make jokes on the internet. One time I made a joke about using petrified wood for something, and people didn't understand that it was a joke. It was just wood that was really hard, that's all. Okay, Firebolt. Evocation cantrip, 1 action, 120, verbal, somatic. Instantaneous. You hurl a mote of fire at a creature or object within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 1d10 fire damage. A flammable object hit by this spell ignites if it isn't being worn or carried. The spell's damage increases by 1d10 when you reach various levels, 5th, 11th, and 17th. Okay, and that's on page 242. 242. Friends. Friends, friends, we all need friends. Okay, and so friends is on page 244. I'll punch that in, 244. And it says enchantment cantrip. It's somatic material. So it takes a small amount of makeup applied to the face as this spell is cast. That's difficult. For the duration, you have advantage on all charisma checks directed towards one creature of your choice that is not hostile toward you. When the spell ends, the creature realizes that you used magic to influence its mood and becomes hostile to you. A creature prone to violence might attack you. Another creature might seek retribution in other ways, at the DM's discretion, depending on the nature of your interaction with it. So that seems like generally fun, you know, both as the player if you pull it off, and as the DM if they pull it off. Okay, the next is guidance. Guidance is past the giant insect, past Goodberry, past Guardian of Faith, and here it is. Guidance. Divination cantrip. 1 action, touch, verbal somatic. Duration is concentration up to 1 minute. You touch one willing creature. Once before the spell ends, the target can roll a 1d4. Add the number rolled to one ability check of its choice. It can roll the die before or after making the ability check. The spell then ends. Huh. I guess that's good that it's a cantrip. It's not so good that it's touch, but I guess it makes sense that it's touch if it's guidance. 248. Let me know, what do you guys think about guidance? Is it useful? I mean, it's kind of like a less good version of bardic inspiration, I think. Okay, we'll just mark these as red. Light. Yeah, that's kind of the thing with all of these cantrips, is they're basically harmless. You know, there's nothing too painful about them, so there's really not too much of a reason to cut out anything so far. You know, they could fit in any magic world. I'm just going to punch in the chat. What is your opinion about the cantrip guidance? People demand to know. Okay, then we've got light. I actually can't believe I'm like doing a live stream reading the player's handbook spell list. What's his name did that a while ago, and it was, I don't know, it seemed ridiculous. It was like this 3-hour live stream, and it was like, in this video I read every single spell in the spell book, and then he did every spell in the spell book. Okay, which if you're level 1, that's not very many spells. Light. Evocation cantrip. Casting time, 1 action, range is touch. Components of VM. Just need a firefly or phosphorescent moss. Duration's 1 hour. Touch an object that is no larger than 10 feet in any dimension. Until the spell ends, the object sheds a bright light in 20-foot radius and dim for an additional 20. The light can be colored as you like. Completely covering the object with something opaque blocks the light. The spell ends if you cast it again or dismiss it as an action. If you target an object being held or worn by a hostile creature, that creature must succeed on a dex saving throw to avoid the spell. Okay. So who gets light? No clerics do, but I don't know who else does. And that would be good to know. I wonder if it'd be good enough to actually go back. Okay, so bards can get light. Clerics can get light. No druids. Oh, no wonder I kept... Okay, paladins don't get any sort of cantrips, and neither do rangers. Sorcerers get light. So they get light or dancing lights. Their choice. Warlocks do not get light. Wizards get light. Okay. So it's your spellcasters. Okay, then we get Mage Hand, which is incredibly useful. And I don't know why I didn't take Mage Hand with my current character. That seems stupid. Okay, Magic Jar, Magic Circle, Mage Hand. 1 action, 30-foot range, components VS, duration 1 minute. A spectral floating hand appears at a point you choose within range. The hand lasts for the duration or until you dismiss it as an action. Oh, that's an action. The hand vanishes if it's ever more than 30 feet from you, or if you cast the spell again. You can use your action to control the hand. You can use the hand to manipulate an object, open an unlocked door or container, stow or retrieve an item from an open container, or pour out the contents of a vial. You can move the hand up to 30 feet each time you use it. The hand can't attack, activate magic items, or carry more than 10 pounds. Okay, good to know. Then we've got Mending. Mending is another fantastic little spell. And it is on... Oh, here it is, right next to message. Page 259. Oops, I didn't put the page of Mage Hand. 259. You know, I'm going to go back to 256 to get that while I'm roughly in the same area. Okay. 259 for Mending as well. Or for message. Okay, so Mending... It's touch, it takes 1 minute. It's not a cantrip, which was something that somebody's been using as a cantrip, and I haven't said anything because I mean, not as a cantrip, as a 1-action cast instead of a 1 minute cast. Even though it says right here 1 minute. Jeez, don't miscellaneous people check my my spreadsheet or the player's handbook or anything else. Anyways, if you're listening, good on you. The spell repairs a single break or tear in an object you touch, such as a broken chain link, 2 halves of a broken key, a torn clock, or a leaking wineskin. As long as the break is no longer than 1 foot in any dimension, you mend it, leaving no trace of the former damage. This spell can physically repair a magic item or construct, but the spell can't restore magic to such an object. So, with that, we're in this battle, and our sorcerer, like, we're fighting these vampire spawn, I think they were, and they were damaged, and so our sorcerer cast Mending on them as he touched them, trying to mend their souls so they would no longer be vampire spawn or zombies or whatever they were. And instead, he just like fixed their tattered clothes and the clothes kind of like shrunk a little bit, so it restricted their movement. I don't remember for how long, if it was just like a round or two, but that was just a really funny use of mending that basically uses it as a one action instead of a 1 minute cast. Be like, hey, I'm going to get out of this battle and spend the entire time, spend 10 turns essentially casting mending on somebody. But needless to say, it didn't particularly work. Okay, and that gets us to message. Message is extremely useful if you are a class that has message, which includes what? Bards. It includes not clerics. It includes not druids, so it must be bards, sorcerers, and wizards then. Yeah, sorcerers have it. Warlocks do not, and wizards have to. Yeah, wizards do. But this is a super slick spell. 120 feet, transmutation cantrip, VSM. So a short piece of copper wire is the material component for it, and it's just one round, and you can. Okay, I'll read it out. You point your finger towards a creature within range and whisper a message. The target, and only the target, hears the message and can reply in a whisper that only you can hear. You can cast this spell through solid objects if you are familiar with the target and know it is beyond the barrier. Magical silence, 1 foot of stone, 1 inch of a common metal, a thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood blocks the spell. The spell doesn't have to follow a straight line and can travel freely around corners or through openings. This spell has come in amazingly handy, and I recommend it if you need it. It's like my bard character, for the short piece of copper wire, part of the component. I just have him fiddling with one of the strings on his dulcimer every time he's casting message, and it just looks like he's plucking around, doing bard things. Which, by the way, bard in 5th edition is a really useful class. I didn't think it would be nearly as fun to play as it turns out to be, but and I don't know why I chose it, honestly, but it is it is recommended. I really do like it, and it's not as annoying as it used to be. Well, I guess I never played a bard in a previous class or previous version, and everybody that I know who did was annoying. So maybe bards still are annoying, and I'm just not aware of it, or maybe it's their fault, and maybe I could just, yeah, we'll go with that, because why take responsibility for my own level of interestingness? Minor illusion comes in handy as well. You can make, minor illusions. You can make stuff show up. Okay, minor illusion. 1 action, 30-foot range. Components, somatic and material. A bit of fleece. You create a sound or image of an object within range that lasts for duration. The illusion also ends if you dismiss it as an action or cast the spell again. If you create a sound, its volume can range from a whisper to a scream. It can be your voice, someone else's voice, a lion roar, a beating of drums, or any other sound you choose. The sound continues unabated throughout the duration, or you can make discrete sounds at different times before the spell ends. If you create an image of an object, such as a chair, muddy footprints, or a small chest, it must be no larger than a 5-foot cube. The image can't create sound, light, smell, or any other sensory effects. Physical interaction with the image reveals it to be an illusion because things can pass through it. If a creature uses its action to examine the sound or image, the creature can determine that it is an illusion with a successful intelligence check against your spell save DC. If a creature discerns the illusion for what it is, the illusion becomes faint to the creature. So what I've done a handful of times is inside of like a battle or an encounter, made an illusion that looks like a person, like a different enemy, to distract the people that or the creatures or the opponents, that's a good word, to distract the opponents, and hopefully they will attack this illusion instead of a party member, and therefore waste their turn. And it has worked. It has worked. I've tried it 1, 2, 3 times. I guess it only worked once. Well, yeah, it worked once. Nothing happened one of the other times, pretty much. And the third time it kind of backfired. And a guy he was an NPC, but he was sort of on our team, at least for the battle. He went after it, and it just didn't go well because we wasted one of our turns. But fortunately, that guy, that NPC that was sort of on our team, did end up perishing in that battle, which was good because he wasn't really on our team. There was just this certain circumstances that made him be on our team against the common enemy that was more threatening than he was at that time. So I'd say it worked out. Although I guess it did distract one of the other players, who was kind of playing more of a dunce type character. He was kind of freaked out by the whole deal. Okay, so minor illusions on page 260. 260. And check. Okay, next we have poison spray. And I'm guessing this is something that sprays poison. Let's see. Whoa, what is that? Autoluke's freezing sphere. That seems rad. I will have to, at one time, read that in the future. But right now, it's all about poison spray. Okay, so let's do that. Power word heal. Power word kill. Oh, there it is. Poison spray. Conjuration cantrip. Casting time 1 action. Instantaneous. Verbal somatic. You extend your hand toward a creature you can see within range and project a puff of noxious gas from your palm. The creature must succeed on a Constitution save or take 1d12 poison damage. And that damage increases at 5th, 11th, and 17th spell. And it's on page 266. 266. Okay. What do we got next? Next, prestidigitation. Transmutation cantrip. This spell is, casting time 1 action, 10 feet range, verbal somatic, durations up to 1 hour. This spell is a minor magical trick that novice spellcasters use for practice. You can create one of the following magical effects within range. You can create an instantaneous, harmless sensory effect, such as a shower of sparks, puff of wind, faint musical notes, or an odd odor. You instantaneously light or snuff out a candle, a torch, or a small campfire. So apparently, yeah, you got that with multiple things. You instantaneously clean or soil an object no larger than 1 cubic foot. You chill, warm, or flavor up to 1 cubic foot of non-living material for 1 hour. You make a color, a small mark, or a symbol appear on an object or a surface for 1 hour. You create a non-magical trinket or an illusory image that can fit in your hand and last until the end of your next turn. Okay. If you cast the spell multiple times, you can have up to 3 of its non-instantaneous effects at any time, and you can dismiss such an action or such an effect as an action. Prestidigitation. And that is on page 267. Let's make it green, baby. Green. Okay. So how many have we done? How many do we have left of the cantrips? We've done 16. And I think there was 27. So yeah, we got 11 left. I don't know if I'm going to make it through all of them, to be honest. So we're at 41 minutes, almost 42. And let's see. Yeah, let's just keep going for a couple more, and then oops, sorry. And then I'll catch you guys later. I mean, this isn't necessarily as interesting of information as I thought that it might be, but I mean, it's kind of stuff that I need to study anyways to get a general idea. So if you are watching, you know, I do appreciate it. And let me know, by the way, if you have any sort of world building tips, or if there's a specific trope that is interesting to you, or that, you know, like if you flipped it, you know, if you flipped it, or even if you made it like a major focus, like what makes an interesting world in your mind. That is something that I'm really interested in. You know, even more so than like, okay, what are the list of spells that can be cast? This is, I mean, I guess this is just an exercise in becoming a better dungeon master. And I don't know if this is a good approach, or if it would be a more practical approach to say, okay, here I am as dungeon master of a level 1 party, and go through each of the characters and review, every single cantrip, every single first level, you know, spell that they have at that time. I mean, that seems like you'd want to know all of that stuff. Of course, I mean, obviously you want the players to know their own characters and know how their effects work, but you want to be able to know that as a dungeon master, to know, like, you know, is this person interpreting this spell the same way that I'm interpreting it, and you know, is it allowed in the world? And of course, you have so many more irons in the fire that you really shouldn't be wasting your time plinking around with low fruit like that at that time. But I think you have to know it still, so that you can be an effective dungeon master. You don't have to like know every use case or anything like that, but you do have to have some idea of what the possibilities are. I mean, obviously every single player group is going to surprise you with something completely different from anything you've ever thought of, but that's kind of one of the fun things about this game, is throwing off the dungeon master and taking up your own itinerary and your own, like, you have your own goals, And if everybody in the party has their own goals, it makes for such a a more real and immersive game, and that's something that I really like about that. Of course, every single player doesn't have to have goals, but I think it drives the story, it drives the narrative. Of course, if you just care about getting into the dungeon and bashing up the boogerman, then that's fine. But if you are bashing up the boogerman to like retrieve something to save your uncle from, I don't know, dying or whatever dumb thing, I think that makes the game a little bit more meaningful. And yeah, so at that point, you shouldn't be worried about the minutia of what does produce flame do. Presumably, it produces a small quantity of flame that your players then take and burn down the manor or whatever and just completely jack up the plans and murder hobo their way through anything with this one stupid cantrip. Casting time 1 action, range self, components verbal somatic, durations 10 minutes. A flickering flame appears in your hand. The flame remains there for the duration and harms neither you nor your equipment. The flame sheds bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light for an additional 10 feet. The spell ends if you dismiss it, or as an action if you cast it. You can also attack with the flame, although doing so ends the spell. It is a very good cantrip. Oh, hey, we've got a #1 super fan here. Welcome. You can also attack with the flame, although doing so ends the spell. When you cast this as an action or on a later turn, you can hurl the flame at a creature within 30 feet. Make a ranged spell attack. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 fire damage. The spell's damage increases blah 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 as you go up in levels. Okay, so what I'm doing here, since now there is a real life no bullshit viewer, is I'm reading every stupid cantrip in the book, and I just kind of went on a 5-minute diatribe about what I'm doing and how it would be stupid not to know this stuff as a dungeon master when you're setting up a new game. But when you are setting up a new game, you don't necessarily have time to go through all of this minutia, and you want your players to have all of their stuff down at that time, and you've got a lot going on, but it seems like you should know this stuff. But I don't know if this is a good approach to knowing this stuff or not, but we will find out. Okay, Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost is a good one. Okay, 1 action, 60 foot, verbal somatic, instantaneous. A frigid beam of blue-white light streaks toward a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, it takes 1d8 cold damage, and its speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn, and then it increases as you hit 5th, 11th, and 17th level. You don't have to know everything, but it's true that the basics are good. Yeah, and okay, sorry, 271. Just get that out of my brain before I forget. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just basically learning enough of the basics, but not necessarily everything. I don't know. It's like the way that I'm kind of approaching this is there are so many stupid spells in here, and I'm only going through the player's handbook. I filtered out everything else, and so far everything is like, okay, yes, of course you want that in a Dungeons and Dragons game. Nothing is like, okay, taking out a teleport or specific spells. Nothing like that is out. But I guess kind of part of what I'm doing is I don't really know a lot of the spells beyond either low-level spells or beyond the ones that I have read that pertain to whatever class that I've played as. So that is the goal. It is a ridiculously stupid and daunting task to get all of these. Let's see how many spells there are in the player's handbook. Okay, 1 second. Acid Splash down to there are too many spells. This is only the one source. 362 spells in the player's handbook alone. That is too many spells for me to come up with in one thing. You know how to cast Thunderwave. Thunderwave is the best. Okay. So what am I up to? I made a lot of jokes about how stupid bards are earlier in this thread that may or may not interest you. But then I couldn't determine if it was because every single person that has ever played a bard in a game that I've played, if it's because that they are a wiener, or if it's because bards are wieners. So I decided that 5th edition bards were okay, and I am not a wiener. Okay, so resistance. It is futile. Abjuration cantrip. You touch one willing creature. Once before the spell ends, the target can roll a d4 and add that number to roll to a saving throw of its choice. It can roll the die before or after making the saving throw. The spell then ends. So similar to guidance, it looks like. Components VSM, the material being a miniature cloak, concentration up to 1 minute. So very similar to guidance, although I don't remember what the D4 was for on guidance. A tribute to my method of how I am learning all of the spells in the history of the world. Okay. Hooray! Now, the other thing that I've discovered that I really don't like in the player's handbook and how they organize the spells is that, okay, so you have so many spells, but if you want to find out, if you can cast that, you have to flip over to page 207, to start there to get your class list of spells, and that goes through 211. Then you get into the spell descriptions, but usually, often I'm flipping through the spells, and I want to know, okay, that's cool. Who can cast it? And I've thought about writing in next to the spells, like, okay, this is wizard and sorcerer and cleric, and this one is warlock, and this one is that, and it sounds like a stupid pain in the ass when you have tools like that dndspells.com that that you can just organize your information from that way. But yes. Okay. So then we've got Sacred Flame, and everybody knows that Sacred Flame is a spell for losers, and only losers use it. That's a joke, but I was trying to get the people in the chat fired up. Let's see if it works. They're on a 30-second delay. They used that during the 3rd edition. For reasons I'm not sure, they did not do that this time. Shoot, I don't know what you're referring to. Oh, the thing that I just whined about, not having the classes under the spells. Yeah, that's a good question. And part of the thing, like with bards, is once they hit level 10, they can pilfer like magic spells from other classes, and you can pretty much like have whatever you want within some sort of reason. I assume. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. So that, I mean, that kind of muddies the water a bit, but not. I don't know. I don't know. Not enough to not let them do that. Um, okay. Anyways, back to Sacred Flame. Flame-like radiance that descends upon a creature you can see within range. The target must succeed on a Dex savings throw or take 1d8 radiant damage. The target gains no benefit from cover for this savings throw. The damage increases at blah blah blah. Okay. Who gets Sacred Flame is the next question, which would be really useful if they had it listed. I mean, obviously, that's like what druids and that was a joke. I couldn't think of another funny class. Okay. Yeah, that's just the cleric thing? Okay, because paladins don't have cantrips. I have to remember that. Okay. Yeah, clerics only. Nobody else gets that. Even if there was like a sexy little icon, you know, that that punched it in next to each spell that said like the bard or the paladin or the druid or whatever, that would be useful. I wonder if there's like a market for like teeny tiny stamps for the sole purpose of what do you call it? Putting in icons in the book, stamping them in. Okay, your bard won't make it to level 10. And that is because he is dying in 25 days in the game. If he did, what spells would he pick? I think you're asking for tooltips in a printed book. Jeez, that is what I'm asking for. Anyways, if this bard did make it to a level 10 in this game, I would freak out because there's so many stupid things that one would have to read. And one is not prepared to read that much. Okay, so there's that. Tooltips would be useful in this thing. Which I guess is why they have like fancy services like D&D Beyond and all of these like things that nerds make, you know. Okay. And by things I mean like these stupid D&D tools and generators.com, and I mean most of it seems to be for dungeon masters, but it's like you know, treasure generators, encounter generators, map generators, city generators, weird names for people and NPCs, and that's all pretty useful for dudes. I forgot where I was going with that. Anyways, yeah, tooltips in the book would be pretty cool. Next, we're looking up shillelagh. Shillelagh is on page 'Yeah, I don't know what my problem is, but like I assume that like anything a cleric can do, a paladin can also do, and also a paladin can have a sword and like fight people. But that is like not the case, it turns out. Okay. Shillelagh. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should just read like the paladin chapter, the cleric chapter to see like what is the difference. I mean, I don't know. There's a difference. Yes, there's a difference, and yes, it's obvious to an extent. But like, what are the functional differences, spell-wise and abilities-wise? Otto's Irresistible Dance, 6th level enchantment. That's what I would take. Oh, I'm looking up a druid spell. Shillelagh. Was it always a druid spell? Is it like also a weird sword? And what page is it on? I've gotten very distracted. I don't even know my alphabet. Okay, Sacred Flame, Rope Trick, Sequester, Shillelagh. Transmutation cantrip. Takes a bonus action. It's a touch. VSM, Mistletoe, Shamrock Leaf, and a club or quarterstaff. Okay, so this is the one that apparently makes your quarterstaff magical. The wood of a club or quarterstaff you are holding is imbued with nature's power. For the duration, you can use your spellcasting ability instead of strength for the attack, and damage rolls of melee attacks using that weapon. The weapon's damage dice becomes a d8. What is a quarterstaff normally? The weapon also becomes magical if it isn't already. The spell ends if you cast it again, or if you let go of the weapon. Okay, I'm going to do some serious things, and I'm going to type that into the internet. Shillelagh. Okay, Shillelagh is a club of some sort. A thonged willow, blackhorn stick, a walking stick, and a club or crudget, typically made from a stout, knotty stick with a knob at the top. It's associated with Irish folklore. Okay. So maybe... Okay. In the tabletop game Dungeons & Dragons, Shillelagh is a low-level spell used by casters to make a simple wooden club into a powerful bludgeoning weapon. Who could do that in 3rd edition? No! Who could do that in 2nd edition? Yeah, what was the deal with Shillelagh in 2nd edition? That is the challenge for the fine folks in chat. Anyways, that's page 275, and that can be highlighted in green. Green. Shocking Grasp. Oh good, the internet people in the chat are off to help out and figure out what it is. Okay. And it might be that I just have a faulty memory. Well, I don't know. Maybe that was a druid. Okay, what am I looking up? Shocking Grasp. That is right below Shillelagh. Evocation cantrip, 1 action, touch, verbal somatic, instantaneous. Lightning springs from your hand to deliver a shock to a creature you try to touch. Make a melee spell attack against the target. You have advantage on the attack roll if the target is wearing armor made of metal. On a hit, the target takes a lightning damage and can't take reactions. Oh, that's pretty rad. Maybe I'll get that. Okay, page 275. I guess I'm starting to think like a player. Maybe I'll get that. Herf or derf. Okay. Spare the Dying. And that is, if I remember correctly, if somebody has no hit points, it prevents them from taking death fails, or whatever it is. Spare the dying, necromancy cantrip, one action, touch, verbal somatic, instantaneous. You touch a living creature that has 0 hit points, they become stable. There's no effect on undead or constructs. Okay, that is useful. And I think that's just clerics, but one time I was wrong about something. I don't know. Well, okay, paladins don't get cantrips, so I'm not even going to bother flipping back to look it up. Thaumaturgy. Okay, in 2nd edition, Shillelagh turned your stick into a magical stick. Okay, so it basically did the exact same thing, right? Or did you have to be a bard in 2nd edition for this Shillelagh? Or, not a bard, excuse me, a druid? That is the question. And you are on a 30-second delay, so I will look up thaumaturgy while I wait. Thaumaturgy. They use thaumaturgy a lot in Critical Role to slam all of the windows in an establishment at any given time. Okay. Thaumaturgy. You manifest a minor wonder, a sign of supernatural power within range. You create one of the following magical effects. Your voice booms up to 3 times as loud as normal for 1 minute. You cause flames to flicker, brighten, dim, or change color for 1 minute. You cause harmless tremors in the ground for 1 minute. You cause an instantaneous sound that originates from a point of your choice within range, such as a rumble, thunder, cry of raven, or ominous whispers. Ominous whispers. You instantaneously cause an unlocked door or window to fly open or slam shut. You alter the appearance of your eyes for 1 minute. Boom! Now I got cat eyes. If you cast this spell multiple times, you can have up to 3 of its effects happening and dismiss them as an action. There were really only priest spells and wizard spells back then, so druids could use it, and it was designed for druids, but I think clerics could also make magical sticks. Okay, that is helpful. And so perhaps this clears up a lot of my confusion from the days of yore, where bards were annoying, because there's a lot of talk about shillelaghs, but maybe it was druid. Maybe he was playing a druid, and maybe druids are annoying. So that's perhaps a fault in my memory. That's unacceptable. Thaumaturgy. Oh, you know what? I have to like change out cantrips next time I have the ability to change out cantrips, which I think is every time you level up you can change out 1 spell or cantrip. I always think that I'm going to do that, but then I never do. Also, I have to remember to use minor illusion to make noises. Okay, we're kind of getting near the end. Only 4 left. Thorn Whip. Oops, I didn't put thaumaturgy. Oh, it's on the same page. 282. 282. 282. Okay, Thorn Whip. Thorn Whip. You create a long, vine-like whip covered in thorns that lashes out at your command toward a creature within range. Make a melee spell attack against the target. If the attack hits, the creature takes 1d6 piercing damage, and if the creature is large or smaller, you pull the creature up to 10 feet closer to you. That doesn't seem like something that you'd want to do. Like, hello, large creature, come towards me. I wonder who gets Thorn Whip. That would probably change the effect. Okay. So Druid obviously gets Thorn Whip. Are they the only one? Warlock does not. And Wizard does not. Okay, so I guess Thorn Whip makes sense for a druid. If those are your criteria. Thorn Whip. Thorn Whip! Okay. I'm also thinking that I need to get a microphone that can interface with my computer. Basically, I just need a mixer so that I can use my nice microphone, plug it into the mixer, and get that into the computer and have a nicer sound that ignores more of the background noise that I've got. So that's something that I'm looking into, and I've got like a handful of internet dollars that I can spend, and by that I mean Amazon money. So I'm trying to figure that out. Okay, Thorn Whip draws them in so fighters can bash, or druids can turn into a big animal and bite. I guess that makes sense. Okay, True Strike, True Strike, True Seeing, True Strike, Divination Cantrip. One action. Components are just somatic. Concentration up to 1 round. You extend your hand and point a finger at a target in range. Your magic grants you a brief insight to the target's defenses. On your next turn, you gain advantage on your first attack roll against the target, provided that this spell has not ended. Okay. True Strike, page 284. Okay. And we'll hop back to chat, see if there's anything new. Okay, just a bit about Thorn Whip. And then Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery is like the best dumb cantrip ever. 'Cause it does damage, and then they have disadvantage on their next attack. And I have to remember to use that more often. But you only get 1 action a turn, and like, what the hell? There's so much to do. Okay, Vicious Mockery. Enchantment cantrip, 1 action, 60 feet, verbal, instantaneous. You unleash a string of insults laced with subtle enchantments at a creature you can see within range. If the target can hear you, though it need not understand you, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or take 1d4 psychic damage and have disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes before the end of its next turn. The spell's damage increases by 1d4, blah blah blah, when you hit the following levels. Okay, so Vicious Mockery is a... Yeah, you know what the problem is with Vicious Mockery is the first, like... I used it a couple times without that, without that realization. One of the... well, I think the person died at the time, and that was when I paid attention, and now I don't. Oh, I know. I was fighting these twig blights next to these vats, and I used Vicious Mockery at one of those twig blights. It might have been at an evil druid instead. But yeah, that disadvantage, that is useful. That is like the best part of Vicious Mockery. Otherwise, it's like, okay, why are you bothering? 285. Alright. Huh. Well, I got through all of the cantrips. But before you showed up, I was just starting to like whine and make excuses about, oh, I'm not going to get any of this done. I'm not going to get this all done. I'm going to hang up. Bye. But then you showed up and made it fun. So thanks. There are 61 level 1 spells. And I don't think I'm prepared to do that right now. How long have I been going? What am I at? I've been on for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Which is like 45 minutes longer than I initially thought that I was going to go for. I just realized that I had a 4 week streak live streaming every single weekend, and if I didn't go tonight, then I would lose the streak. And it's not that I don't think I have anything to prove, but I want to prove it anyways. Um, I don't know. That's all I got. Um, let's see. Continuing to build the world. I don't know. I don't know what the next live stream will be. I did have some more thoughts on cities. Um, Basically, I started writing out a path of. Oh, I should not minimize that. Oh, I didn't. I rule. Your Acid Splash and Blade Ward need page numbers. That is. Oh yeah, that's before I started doing that. Okay, yeah. Acid Splash. Whoops, sorry. Acid Splash is on page. Let's see, Animate Dead, Animal Messenger. That is the first spell listed. It's on page 211. And Blade Ward is a couple pages later. Let's see, Call Lightning, Burning Hands, Blink, Blade Ward. That's on the bottom of page 218. Okay, so I've added that. But, oh yeah, so what I basically did was I kind of started following some imaginary adventurers, if you will, from the city of I don't even remember the name of the city. Basically from the city of Salmonella, heading eastward, and here's how many small punky dunk towns that they hit, and then they came to this crossroad, and they were just basically following the Aerosfar River before they got to the forest, the Lulandic wilds. But so I kind of plotted out, here are things that make sense, and oh, I need a city here, and then following that river up into the wildlands. Okay, here's this lake here, and here's this particular NPC that can go here, and around this lake there are goblins that will harass you on your way. Although, well, wait, no, was it goblins? Because I've kind of decided that goblins are not particularly evil by default. Like there is civilizations of goblins. If you go to that city that I forgot the name of, Salmonella, it did start with an S. Like the city council is basically made up of goblins and humans, and outside of the city there are dwarf drone laborers who sit around doing their farming. So I think that's part of, I don't know, part of the dynamic that might be into this world, but I don't know exactly how everything's going to work out. So that's why I'm slowly but surely working it out. And I think that's about it for me for tonight. So thank you very much for watching, chatting, joining in the call. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that stupid bell, because that really helps my self-esteem, and that is important. Oh, this weirdo on the internet, he won't like himself unless I subscribe.